this is not about trying to have a better understanding of the world. No, it's about starting from the most important point, which is who you are, because that's the place where there was a critical mistake made, this business of identifying yourself with something that you're not. So rather than try and explain to you what it's like to be somebody that has dementia or Alzheimer's, well, I can't because I haven't experienced that, right? But I do know that there's awareness there. I mean, if you look in her eyes, you'll see there is awareness there. Now, whether or not that person's memory is functioning in such a way where they can utilize the things that you and I have learned and do, easily all the time, well, that's another story, right? But that doesn't mean that there's not awareness there. And I wonder, and I believe that I think it is probably the case that if you practice this and you become relaxed in and at home with yourself as this awareness, right? And you lose your memory, and you've practiced this, that you'll be fine. Because your orientation will not be with what you know, it will be with who you are. And that's the orientation that this is about. And that orientation is an orientation that will see you through life. It will see you through all of the challenges. It will see you through all the inevitables. That's one of the reasons why the Buddhists talk so much about death. Because the way they look at it is, well, let's take the worst thing. Let's start there. Let's take the worst thing. Let's take the thing that everybody's afraid of. Let's take the thing that everybody's so afraid of that they're in denial about it, that they don't want to talk about it. Let's talk about that. And why let's talk about that? Because in these teachings, there's a very radical aspect of these teachings, and that radical aspect is that death does not exist and that suffering does not exist. That's so unlike the way it occurs for people. It's so unlike the way we've been conditioned to believe that the way it is, that even if you're willing to entertain the possibility that that's true, I mean, come on, if you're even willing to entertain the possibility that that's true, and then start practicing meditation, and then allow yourself to start to study some of these teachings that point to that truth. Everything that I say here and everything that any teacher says is not true. So, and sometimes I'm concerned about that because, in order to be an effective teacher, you have to be an entertainer to some degree, you know what I mean? To get people's attention and to keep it humorous and interesting and all that. And sometimes I get concerned that people get confused and they think that meditation or meditation teaching or the practice is some form of entertainment or some hobby that, people are going to undertake, that they can then be cool because they're meditating, or become a scholar of the ancient wisdom teachings, and then have that as your resume, right? But that's not what this is about. There's nothing that I'm going to say or nothing that any of the teachers, and I don't care how good they are, and there's some very good non-dual teachers and consciousness teachers out there these days. I quote them, don't I? Rupert, Eckhart Tolle, who else? Adyashanti, there's a lot of them out there today, and there's a lot of good books out there that are translating these esoteric teachings from the ancient East and translating that into modern ways of talking about the same things, translating that into psychology, into modern psychology. That's one of the reasons that this became of interest to me as a psychologist, because I chose a profession that after I got into the profession and I understood how to do the work and had the training about how to do the work and had the training about how to understand human behavior, I found out that it didn't work. I found out that that what we are able to offer people that makes a difference, that's sufficient enough of a difference that gets them out of suffering, whether it's from depression or anxiety or, addiction, is so limited that it would be best understood if you were going to really tell it like it is, that it's a failure. The treatment, the mental health treatment as it exists today, the conventional form of mental health treatment is a failure. And when I've talked to other therapists about it, they say, oh, well, don't expect too much change. Don't expect too much change. People don't change too much, We're lucky we get them to change at all, And I just felt, because, see, here's the deal. I just felt that was really a disappointing career for me, right? And not only that, but one of the reasons I got into being a psychologist is I thought, because I had a screwed up childhood, right? I had a nightmare childhood, right? So I figured, well, if I study psychology, maybe I can learn enough to be normal instead of turn out like my brothers did. One's dead from alcoholism, the other's on the street somewhere, heroin addict, right? So that's where I came from. So I figured, well, this will allow me to get free from that, right? Well, it didn't allow me to get free from that. I mean, I was able to compensate enough, that I didn't turn out quite as bad as the others, but I was still neurotic. I still had bad habits. My relationship still sucked, right? And so here I am in a profession where I'm supposed to help people with things that I can't do anything about. And that's the predicament for a psychotherapist, So what do? They have to hide behind the diploma. That's all. And just say, oh, well, it's not about me personally. I'm just doing what I learned how to do to help people get out of their problems, even though I'm crazy and I'll still be crazy. Well, that didn't fly for me. So I was really interested in looking everywhere that I could to see, is there anything? Is there anybody saying anything? Is there any other possibility? And I did start to find things. Back in the early 70s, I did the S training, and I was hanging out in a Kundalini yoga ashram, and I was reading Alan Watts, and I was taking LSD. I mean, I was willing to try anything, And eventually, it started to occur to me that this meditation thing had something going for it, and I started studying it and I started teaching it. But I had not yet come across the non-dual teachings, and I had not yet really deeply understood a lot of these esoteric teachings from the East, like from Buddhism and Hinduism and Taoism and mystical Christianity and the Kabbalah and all the rest of it. So at one point, I got far enough into it where it became evident to me that there was a fundamental mistake that I had made that every human being makes, almost every human being makes, unless you were born in Tibet, and unless you're the Dalai Lama. Right? There's a fundamental mistake that we all make, and we don't have any choice about it because we're born into it. You're born into a world that's already ignorant. You're born into a world that's already sharing a mistake that's being made over and over again. But because of the agreements that people have about the way it is, which is that it's not a mistake, that you are your body, you are your personality, because that pervades humanity, right? That there's very few people looking for an answer outside of that. And so that leaves you in conventional psychology. And then the thing that occurred to me at some point was, wait a minute, if the mistake is that I'm not what I think I am, if the mistake is I'm not a personality, I'm not a physical body, then what the hell am I? Because it seems to me that I don't see any other possibility, and that's how it is for most people. But then when you start to study meditation, you begin to realize, wait a minute, there is something other than the personality, because the personality only exists in thought. The personality only exists in thought, and the personality only exists as a memory. That is interesting. When somebody gets a significant head injury and they have total amnesia and they have no memory of anything, they don't know who they are, they don't know their family, they have no past, okay? Well, what does that mean? It means that the you that you consider yourself to be is nothing other than a memory. Somebody told you that at one point and told you it was true, and who are you to question it? Somebody told you this is your body, that's your name, this is your personality, and we're going to start teaching you about your personality. You're good at this and you're not too good at that. You're like this and you're not like that. You're like your mother, not like your father. You're a middle child, not the first child, not the last. And so you develop a psychology. You develop a psychological existence that you believe that you are a physical body and you are this character that we call a personality. But if you get a head injury, that can all go away and you don't know who the hell you are. Which means that who you are is a learned reality. It's a memory. You have to remember who you are. If you forget who you are, you won't know who you are because you learned it. Well, is that all there is? Because even the people that have total amnesia are still here. They're still here. They're still aware. They don't know who they are, but they're still here. So it seems to me that maybe who they really are is not the personality and not the physical body, but it's what's still here when the memory goes. So what is that? What is that? Where is that? So then you become a seeker, then you start trying to seek the truth, seek my true nature. I'm seeking my true nature. And then St. Francis of Assisi comes along and he says, what you're looking for is what's looking. What you're looking for is what's looking. So the seeker realizes I can never find what I'm looking for because I am what I'm looking for, It's like these people back in the day, I guess there's some people around today that still talk like this, I'm searching for myself. I'm trying to find myself. Good luck. Where are you going to find yourself, right? Because the you that's looking for yourself is who you are. It's not out there, right? So that opens up a whole new possibility. So wait a minute. I am the awareness that is aware of everything. Oh, okay, that's interesting. Oh, well, let me start to pay attention to this awareness. What can I see about it? What can I come to understand about it so I can come to know my true nature? Well, then it gets really interesting because then if you start to look directly for yourself, this is not teaching anymore. This is direct seeing, right? That's why they say the people are awake become a seer, direct seeing, right? So now I'm looking at my own awareness, right? I'm looking at my own awareness. Well, I can't really look at my own awareness because I am my own awareness. But I can look at it because I can kind of like just have a sense of what it's like to be me, what this awareness is like. And if you start to pay attention to it, you can begin to realize that this is the way out. This is the answer. Because my awareness is always here. It's never not here, which means I'm always here, never not here, right? My awareness has no form, has no shape. And this is by directly looking at it. That's why Mooji's invitation can be very powerful, because if you put off to the side all this other stuff that you give your attention to and just get down to the bottom line of awareness itself and then look at that, as he says in the invitation, and ask questions about it like, is it a male or a female? Is your awareness a male or a female? It's there, right there where you're sitting. Take a look. Is it a male or a female? Yeah? No. Does it have any form? No. If you look at it, can you see a beginning? Can you see a beginning? No beginning. No form, not a male or a female. Does it exist in time? No, it doesn't exist in time. It's only always here right now. That's it. It's only always here. And by the way, if you're going to realize your true nature, that's when it's going to happen. It's never going to happen in the future. So those of you who are still holding on and hoping, good luck with that, right? It's only going to happen now because that's the only place it exists, you see. And then if you keep looking at it and you see, well, let's see, so it doesn't have a form, it doesn't exist in time, I don't see a beginning. If it doesn't have a beginning, can it have an end? Oh, no beginning, no end. If it doesn't have an end, then can death be real? Oh, that's interesting. Death can't be real. Is it going anywhere? No. It's not going anywhere. Does it want anything? No. Does it need anything? No. No. Wow. If that's what I really am, then how could I not be happy? Right? I don't want anything. I don't need anything. I didn't come from anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not physical. That sounds to me like everything, that sounds to me like happiness, right? That sounds to me like peace of mind. That sounds to me like contentment. That sounds to me like satisfaction. Well, if that's the case, it means that I already have all that. If I am the awareness, I already have all that. Well, why aren't I experiencing that? Because you're paying attention to something else all the time. You're paying attention to the thought activity in the mind, and the thought activity in the mind is the accumulation of all the conditioning you've experienced in your life. Yeah, so you're paying attention to what you think is who you think you are and what you think is true. And since that's not the case, right, that's why they say in these teachings, you're living in a dream. You're living in a dream, because a dream by definition isn't real, is it? No. So if you're living in something that's not real, if you're living in a thought world, right? Because everything, you wake up in the morning and the world is there, but you don't see the world that's there. You see the world you think is there. That's what you see. You see what you think, right? Thinking becomes the lens you're looking through. And if you've ever gone skiing and you put on the yellow goggles, right? After about an hour, you don't know you have the goggles on, right? And then at the end of the day, you take them off. Oh, I thought everything was yellow, right? Well, suppose you have those goggles on all of your life from the beginning when you first learned about reality and who you are. You have those goggles on all the way up until now, right? And then you take them off. Then you realize what you think is reality is not reality. Reality is something that's always available for you to see, but what you're seeing isn't that. You're seeing an interpretation of that, which is given by thought. What you actually are, the reality of what you actually are, is there to be experienced anytime, all the time, right? But instead of experiencing that, you're depending on what you think about what you are, to tell you what you are. If I ask you who you are or what you are, you can't answer that any other way than to tell me what you think, right? You can't answer it any other way but to tell me what you think. And since it's not what you think, the only correct answer is what?
You're aware.
No?
I don't know.
Yeah. You got one. Bingo. No, the truth is you don't know what you are, and by the way, you never will. It can't be known. It's non-conceptual. It can't be known. And so all the things that the teachers say about it are called pointers. They're pointing to it, and they say, don't confuse the finger for the moon. When I'm pointing at the moon, don't think the finger is the moon. The moon is what I'm pointing to. Don't think the concepts about reality are reality. The concepts are talking about it. They come from thought. It's conceptual. That's not it. What is it? What is it is what's happening all the time where you are. What the truth is happening all the time where you are. And it's not a thought. It's not a thought. It's not a concept, right? It's an actual direct experience of reality. It's a direct experience of reality. And this actually is not only free, it's not only freeing, it's not only frees you up from all the limitations of thinking you're something that you're not, but it's also exciting, to be what you are. To be what you are and not know what it is exciting, right? It's the miracle that we're ignoring. It's the miracle that we're ignoring. Right now, the experience that you're having of the awareness that is your true nature is miraculous. You don't know what it is. You don't know how it got here. You don't know where it came from. You don't know where it's going, right? But we don't pay any attention to how miraculous our existence is, right? We pay attention to what we think instead, right? And because we pay attention to what we think, and the thinking activity comes from a system, right? Comes from a program, your conditioning. The thinking activity comes from a system that's dedicated to survival. So the only thing you get to know is what supports your survival or what threatens your survival. That's the only thing you get to know. And that operation is what's leading your life. It's what's determining what your attention is taken by. It's determining what your attention is being taken by. So one of the things we're practicing meditation is discovering that we have very little ability to pay attention. That's one of the things that we're discovering in meditation. How can you deny the fact that when you sit there, you're being silent, you're not moving, you have the intention of paying attention to the body breathing, and yet you can't maintain that for more than 30 or 40 seconds tops. Well, if that's the case when you're doing that in meditation, what the hell do you think's going on the rest of the time? You think you're one who's directing your attention? See, this is one of the things that's very important to come to see when you start to wake up. When you start to wake up, you realize you're living an out-effect life. You're living an out-effect life, right? What does that mean? It means that the quality of your life and the experience you're having is determined by what's happening around you, not by what's true or not by you. How do you know that? Well, if a pickpocket meets you, he meets your pockets first, doesn't he? Yeah. So the attention that you think you're giving to things is being taken. It's not given, it's being taken. It's being taken by the match between the program that's running in your brain and in your mind and what's going on. And the program that's running in your brain and your mind in relationship to what's going on has to do with what's happening that will give me pleasure and comfort, or what's happening that's threatening me and it'll be uncomfortable. That's what's that's what's taking your attention all day long. If you start to pay attention, you'll see that that's the case. And it not only what's going on in the world, but it'll happen in your fantasies too, right? You fantasize about the things that you're afraid of or the things that you want, don't you? Yeah. So that's the whole program that's going on. Your life is about what you're afraid of or what you want. That's your life. That's your life. There's no quality involved. There's no happiness involved. There's no peace of mind involved. And there's no satisfaction involved. So when we started a country, what did we put in the Constitution? In pursuit of happiness. We're going to pursue happiness. We don't have it. We're going to pursue it, right? We're going to pursue peace of mind. We're going to try and get satisfied, right? How do we do that? Well, our tribe, the culture that we were brought up in, says the way that you accomplish satisfaction is to make money. That's very satisfying to have money, right? Then you feel secure, you feel like you can get more material possession, more toys to play with, to distract yourself with, and so forth. But then you have to worry about losing the money. So now you're anxious. Well, that didn't work, you see? So you find out that every solution is the next problem, right? You get rich, you win the lottery, and you think, oh, well, that solves all my problems, right? Right. Within a week, you're worse than you ever were, because now you're terrified of losing all that money, and everybody's chasing you, trying to get the money off of you, right? So the highest suicide rate are lottery winners. Interesting, isn't it, right? Everybody thinks that's the answer, but the people that get the answer want to kill themselves. So if money's not the answer, if control is not the answer, if trying to be successful in the world the way the game is set up is not the answer, then what's the answer? And the beauty of these teachings and practices is that the answer is you. You're the answer. You are the answer. The awareness is the answer, because if you begin to experience the truth of yourself, you begin to experience your true nature, right? You're happy, you're satisfied, you're content, and you're peaceful. Now what? Now your life is a different life because you're not chasing anything anymore. You can relax. You can enjoy yourself. And one of the qualities that Richie Davidson talks about that comes about through these practices is generosity. That's interesting. Why would it be generosity? Because you don't need anything now. Your life is about giving things. And you understand what love is, and love is a function of giving, not taking.